An experienced skier took off suddenly down a mountainside, seemingly frightened of something. He was with 20 other people on a climbing expedition, but they had gone down ahead of him. And this instance was the last time the experienced skier was ever seen. Does his disappearance have something to do with the Giant Ape attacks in the area way back in 1924? The only thing left was his discarded film box, but this skier has not been seen since. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you're having a great week. My name is Elise, and I'm your host, and I keep forgetting to introduce myself because somehow that just slips my mind. But that's my name, and I'm the host of Morbid Outdoors, and thank you so much for listening. I am pre-recording this. My husband and I are leaving in a few hours to go on a road trip down to New Mexico and do some hiking and just getting some rest and relaxation in. So I'm super pumped for that, and I can't wait to update you about all of our New Mexican adventures. Just a reminder, I just recently launched a Patreon. So if any of you want to support me and support the show, we have a membership option. There's just one, but you'll be getting bonus episodes each month and then also ad-free episodes because I am starting to run a few ads here and there. So if you want ad-free content and extra episodes every month, go check out my Patreon. Okay, let's get into today's episode. So today we're discussing a case from a very long time ago. And as you guys know, there isn't a lot of information about it online. But we will be going to Washington today. We're going to be in the Mount St. Helens area of Washington. And if you've ever been here, you know absolutely how breathtaking it is. This is a place where I have spent a little bit of time around hiking this area a couple years back. I haven't been super close to this specific area, but I did some hiking in the National Forest back in 2022. Well, I guess it's been about 3 years. I hiked to Iron Creek Falls, which is about an hour south of Ape Canyon, which is where today's case takes place. So because this is a specific area, I've gotten negative reviews from All Trails app. Someone said no apes and then a sad face. Samantha said, I wanted so bad to enjoy this hike, but the bugs were completely unbearable. We made it a little over halfway, but anytime we stopped along the trail to let mountain bikes pass or to take a water break, our bodies were covered head to toe in what appeared to be flies. They would not let up. I was fully covered, and still my ears and face were covered in bugs. There was no serenity to this hike at all whatsoever. If you're thinking about you're prepared for bugs, think again. We got to a point where we were spraying bug spray as we walked. We doused ourselves in spray prior to the hike and had those little off fans. Still, nothing. I envy anyone that could get past these critters. Another comment, bugs, 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 and those are in all caps. Terrible bugs. Despite us all using spray and wristbands, didn't matter. Would be nice to hike to try when the bugs are off season. And then in parentheses, when is that? ? So this actually looks like a very pretty hike, and it's well rated on Google. But a lot of the reviews that are negative aren't about the scenery or the trail itself. It's mostly about the bugs. Now, here's a tip for people that want to go hiking when there's bugs. I have like netting. So I will literally wear like a net around my head, like on my head, because to me, the most annoying thing is when bugs are flying in my face. But if I have like a hat with netting on, it's a little bit more enjoyable. I do also try to keep myself covered when I'm hiking, like in the high Uintas when there's mosquitoes. But I found that if you use like an all natural bug spray, like lemongrass and cedar oil, it's actually works super well. So that's just a tip from me. And you can get like a head net at REI or on Amazon, and they work pretty well. So, we are specifically talking about Ape Canyon, and this is a gorge along the edge of the Plains of Abraham, which is on the southeast shoulder of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. It's a gorge, and it basically narrows to a close at like the narrowest it gets is like 8 feet. And so that's a pretty narrow gorge. And this area was heavily impacted by the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. The trail I was talking about earlier, that is adjacent to this steep rocky canyon, and the trail is called Ape Canyon Trail, and it's very popular, like I said, with hikers and mountain bikers. And on the south side of the mountain is another feature named Ape Cave. Now, it gets its name from quite a story. So the story goes, in the summer of 1924, a group of gold prospectors claimed that 7-foot tall ape-like animals attacked them with boulders. According to their tale, they came across the animals in the wilderness, and when one of the group fired a rifle at one of the animals, he struck it 3 times, and then he saw the wounded animal topple off of a cliff into an accessible canyon. The creatures, or the ape men, they supposedly returned later to bombard these gold prospectors' cabin with large stones, and they left giant footprints. Now, of course, this story caused quite a stir, and it kind of became a local sensation. And it actually prompted U.S. Forest Service Rangers J.H. Huffman and William Welch to investigate these claims. Huffman and Welch descended into the supposedly inaccessible canyon, but they didn't find anything. They didn't find the ape's body. They didn't find any evidence to back up these prospectors' stories. And with this, they also demonstrated how 14 inches footprints of 14 inches long, could be easily faked. And they concluded that the miners probably placed large stones near the cabin themselves to bolster their tale. I don't know what the motive would be behind that, but this is what the investigator said. So despite this story told by the miners, it was debunked by the Rangers. People still wanted to believe, people love Sasquatch and they love aliens. And so a lot of people actually took this story as gospel, yes, this is exactly what happened. And so this story was repeated and continued to spread, years and years and years later, inspiring new theories and claims of new sightings. I do have to say, I'm not sure what the motive would be behind the miners, to tell the story. However, I think that in 1924, if a group of grown, backwoods men who typically aren't afraid of much were so terrified of this instance, I don't know, something leads me to believe that they wouldn't lie about that because in my experience, back then, and especially, macho men like that, they wouldn't really want to admit that they were scared by anything. So, has it been debunked? Yes. Could it be real? Also, yes. Anyway, so about Ape Canyon Trail. Now, I found this at WashingtonTrailsAssociation.com. This is their description of the trail. Climb through dense old forest growths to a barren cinder plateau that bursts with wildflowers and unobstructed views. This view-packed day hike begins at the end of Road 83 near Lava Canyon. The trail climbs steadily through one of the remaining stands of old-growth forest on Mount St. Helens. As you gain elevation, wide views taking in Mount Adams and Mount Rainier open up. The lower portion of the trail to Ape Canyon starts parallel to a wide lava flow and climbs through one of the only remaining swaths of old-growth forest. And so, some of the trees that there are Douglas, silver, and noble firs. After climbing for a few miles, the trail emerges from the forest into a wide volcanic plain that offers jaw-dropping panoramas in all directions. After a short distance, the trail comes to the precipitous edge of the trail's namesake rock formation, named after a possible Sasquatch sighting in 1924. Continue across the plains of light-colored cinders. The trail ends at the Lewitt Trail, but by wandering north on the Lewitt, you can increase your mileage all the way to the plains of Abraham Trail, with huge views of Mount St. Helens' eastern flanks where colorful summer wildflowers dot the barren landscape. So this makes it sound very beautiful. And if you look at pictures online, this trail absolutely looks amazing, like beautiful, beautiful. It is marked as 11 miles round trip and about 1,400 feet elevation gain. And, what's interesting about this trail is that the highest point is only 4,200 feet. So you are, you're going a long distance, but you're not doing a lot of elevation gain over a short mileage. And so it probably doesn't feel that strenuous. Now, that's what the Washington Trails Association has, but All Trails actually says that it's 10 miles at 2,120 feet elevation gain. A lot of people do not like All Trails because they say it's not accurate. That's up to you whether to decide if you want to believe the All Trails version or the Washington Trails Association version of this trail. Now, Ape Canyon is in the larger area of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. It's in southern Washington, and it's managed by the United States Forest Service. This national forest is 1.32 million acres, and it extends 72 miles along the western slopes of the Cascade Range from Mount Rainier National Park to the Columbia River. The Gifford-Pinchot National Forest has old-growth forests, high mountain meadows, several glaciers, and numerous volcanic peaks. The forest's highest point is 12,276 feet at the top of Mount Adams, which is the second tallest volcano in the state after Rainier. Fun fact, Gifford-Pinchot National Forest is one of the older national forests, in the United States. It's included as part of the Mount Rainier Forest Reserve in 1897. And basically it kind of is the age-old story, where they set it aside and then they combine it with another national forest. So that is what happened in this case, but it is, like I said, one of the older national forests in the U.S. It's beautiful. There's tons of hiking, lots of streams, rivers, waterfalls, lots of wildlife viewing too. A little history on this area. In 1855, the U.S. government commissioned Washington Territory to negotiate land cession treaties with tribes around the forest. The Yakima tribe signed a treaty agreement that stipulated their moving into a reservation while maintaining off-reservation resource rights. But I think we all know what I'm going to say next. The original treaty was broken in 1916 when the Washington State Supreme Court ruled that the Yakimas hunting off-reservation had to subscribe to the state fish and game laws, which is total BS. Many tribes have continued to use the area's resources while encountering non-native hunters, fishers, and recreation users. It was later renamed the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest on June 15, 1949, in honor of Gifford Pinchot, who is one of the leading figures in the creation of the National Forest System of the United States. His widow, fellow conservationist Cornelia Bryce Pinchot, was one of the speakers who addressed the audience assembled that day. In 1985, the nonprofit Gifford Pinchot Task Force formed to promote conservation of the forest. Some of the rivers that flow through this area are the Lewis River, Cispus River, the Clear Fork, the Muddy Fork of the Cowlitz. There are an additional 13 rivers in the forest being studied for consideration into the National Wild and Scenic River System. This national forest includes many popular and secluded backcountry lakes. Most of the lakes offer excellent fishing. Goose Lake is known for the best fishing in the state of Washington, so tons of fishermen are out there constantly fishing for lots of yummy and beautiful fish. Since 1964, congressional action has established 1 national monument and 7 wilderness areas in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. And those include Glacier View Wilderness, Goat Rocks, Indian Heaven, Mount Adams, Tatoosh, Trapper Creek, and William O. Douglas. Here's another fun fact about the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. It's a native habitat for several threatened species, which include the spotted owl, as well as multiple species of northwest fish like the bull trout, Chinook salmon, coho salmon, and steelhead. People for over 6,000 years have made an impact on the ecology of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. Native Americans hunted in high meadows below receding glaciers. The indigenous then helped begin manage the forest to meet their own needs. One method they used was to burn specific areas to help huckleberry production. There are a lot of huckleberry in this area, about 338 spots. More than 6,000 culturally modified trees were identified, and of which 3,000 are now protected. Archaeological investigations are supported by the USFS. The Gifford-Pinchot National Forest operates the only large-scale commercial huckleberry harvesting program among the region's national forest. Historically, treaties with the indigenous tribes protected huckleberry patches for tribal use. However, the berries have become valuable commercial commodities, prompting some to advocate for ending the commercial program. So, I don't know, this is like a constant battle that's been happening, for a while now. But in my opinion, you guys know what my opinion is. I think that this land should be managed by the indigenous tribes because it was their home before settlers came along. So anyways, let's get into our case. So Jim Carter is our victim. I'm just saying he's a victim because he's not been found. And I think that he was a victim of something. He was 32 at the time of his disappearance. And there are lots of different dates. And so I'm just going with the ones I found online. This case is so old that I can't even say this is the right date or this isn't the right date because this happened in 1950. And as we all know, investigations, there were no computers, there were no timestamps on anything. So I'm just using the dates that I found and they might not be correct. So don't come after me for that. Jim was with a 20-member mountaineering climbing party in May 1950. Little about this case is online because it happened so long ago. But basically, this is what happened. Him and his buddies, they climbed up the mountain, and on the way down, he left the other climbers near a landmark called Dog's Head at around 8,000 feet. Jim was an experienced skier and mountaineer, and he told the rest of the climbers that he was going to ski around to the left and take a picture of the group as they skied down the timberline. Nothing too crazy since he was experienced, and his hiking party trusted him to come back safely. This is something that I think even still frequently happens now. Hey, you guys go over here. I'm going to stay right here or go this way, and I'll get an epic shot of you guys climbing, hiking, skiing down. So I don't think, there's anything to raise an eyebrow about yet. Now, from here, Jim took off down the mountain in a wild, death-defying dash, apparently taking chances that no skier of his caliber would take unless there was something terribly wrong or that he was being pursued. So this is what, 20 people saw. 20 people saw him doing this. And they said that he jumped over 2 or 3 large crevasses and was likely going down. He was going down so fast. And this is what someone said. He was going like the devil down the slope, seemingly frightened of something. This was reported from those members of his climbing party, and they all agreed that Jim seemed like he was terrified of something. But that's the only thing they saw was him skiing as fast as he could, kind of being unsafe about his skiing habits at this time, like trying so fast to get down this mountain. And he was not taking a picture, or at least that we know of. And that was the last time anyone saw Jim alive. They obviously started searching, and despite a large search of the area for weeks, and this wasn't just his climbing party searching, this was, searching being conducted by experienced search and rescue teams. No trace of Jim was found. The only thing that searchers found was a discarded film box at the point where he had taken a picture, and that's it. They didn't find his camera, they didn't find any of his gear, just a discarded film box. When Jim's tracks reached the steep side of Ape Canyon, the searchers were amazed to see that Jim had been in such a hurry and that he went right down those steep canyon walls. But they didn't find him at the bottom of the canyon as they had expected to. The tracks were traced by plane again towards Eagle Creek Ranger Station before they disappeared into the complete wilderness. Bob Lee was a Seattle Mountain Search and Rescue Unit member who was involved in the operation to find Jim Carter. And Bob was a very experienced Portland mountaineer, and his credentials included that he was a member of the exclusive worldwide Alpine Club, as well as the leader of the 1961 Himalayan expedition and an advisor to the 1963 American expedition. And Bob said that Jim Carter's complete disappearance is an unsolved mystery to this day. Bob said that every time he got cut off from the rest of the searchers during the long search, he felt that someone was watching him, and there was something strange on the high slopes of the mountain. He described the search as the most eerie experience he'd ever had, and that when he was searching and out here, he could feel the hair on his neck standing up, and it was eerie. He said he was unarmed except for an ice axe, and he said he never let go of that weapon. This is someone that did a lot of search and rescues and had seen a lot of stuff, but this search made him uneasy. And this is where I say, hey, we are humans, we have brains, we have guts. This is kind of like where I want to point out that our body knows something's wrong before our brains do. And Bob's body was telling him that. He had this feeling of being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck were standing up. And these are those gut feelings that your body is more in tune with things than you realize. And his body definitely was trying to tell him something before his brain could get that message. Bob said that the search team combed the canyon one end to the other for 5 days, and that sometimes there were as many as 75 people in the search party, but no sign of Jim Carter or any of his equipment was found. And after about 2 weeks, the search was unfortunately called off. Bob said that Dr. Otto Trott, Lee Stark, and him came to the conclusion that the mountain devils got him. And, during this interview, Bob said that very seriously. So he said that, again, it was eerie and it was the strangest experience he'd ever had. He also said 25 different reports of people attacked by ape-like men in Mount St. Helens and the Cascade areas. This might be a cause for concern. And these reportings had happened over a 20-year period. Bob then mentioned that even a group of Boy Scouts from Centralia, he said that, they got a call, and if he could remember right, several of the boys were taken off the mountain, and they were hysterical after being attacked by, quote, mountain devils. I find it really interesting that an experienced search member and huge pillar of the mountaineering community back then was as freaked out as he was on this search. And he was serious in that interview that he gave. He thinks the mountain devils got Jim Carter. And, honestly, after weeks of searching and seeing Jim's tracks go into the canyon and not finding him or anything that he had on him, I don't know. And I might have come to the same conclusion, honestly. Like, it's just such a bizarre situation. This very experienced skier and mountaineer wants to take a picture of his climbing party, but then the next time they see him, bam, he is going down the mountain as fast as he can with no regard to safety and looking scared. So what did Jim see? Or what did he, I don't know, feel in that moment to make him try to get away as fast as possible? I don't know if we'll ever know. So my question is Jim's disappearance connected with the ape men from the 20s? Many think so. And I don't know. I keep going back to, what did Jim see that made him go down the mountain so fast? Was it an ape person, or was it a different animal? Maybe he saw a bear or a mountain lion. And I don't know. I just feel like maybe he fell and maybe he got stuck on a crevasse or crevice. I know people say those differently, but they are different things. Did he get stuck and fall, and is his body still up there frozen? Where's his body? Where's all his gear? Someone from Reddit said they think it's more likely that some other predator went after him and killed him. The fact that a body wasn't found isn't shocking given the terrain, and there is obviously no hope of ever finding more evidence of what happened to this man, since that land was forever changed by the eruption. I have to say, I think I agree with this Redditor. I think that Jim, there was some sort of incident. He was trying to get away and fast, and I think that speed probably caused an accident, and his body got stuck somewhere. And then, 30 years later, Mount St. Helens erupted, and this was in the area that was majorly changed by the eruption. So I don't know if anybody will ever find his body, but I think it's still out there, and I think that eruption completely changed this area, and I think that Jim Carter has been forever entombed under Mount St. Helens eruption and ash and everything that went on that day. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think an ape man was pursuing Jim, or do you think it was something a little bit more simple? I always like to point out Occam's razor, which is, the simplest explanation is likely the correct one. But in this case, I'm not sure if I can confidently say, it was Occam's razor. He fell down a crevasse and he's dead. I do think he's deceased. But where is he, and what caused him to want to escape from that area so quickly? As always, recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time. I don't have a lot to say today, except for I'm very excited to head down to New Mexico in about an hour, and I can't wait to update you guys with what we do. We are actually going to hike in a national monument that hasn't been opened in 5 years. I have hiked in this national monument in 2017, and it was so amazing. And so I'm excited to finally be able to go back 8 years later and show my husband this area. He's never been. So very excited for that. And if any of you have heard of Tent Rocks, that is where we are going. I think I'm mostly excited about the New Mexican food and just, I don't know, just being in my favorite state. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you're enjoying any spring weather that you're getting. And I will see you guys next week.